Hey, everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting John Taylor McEntire, a global business leadership consultant with a fascinating multicultural background and a unique approach to organizational dynamics. From working with teams spanning 60 nations to helping leaders rediscover their vision, John draws on a lifetime of global experiences to transform diverse workplace into thriving, innovative communities. How you doing today, John?
Doing great, Anthony. Thanks for having me.
No, I loved our conversation before. I can't wait to kind of share it with more people because you're doing cool things and a lot of people need to hear about it. So I was excited to have you on. But to start off, how's 2025 treating you so far? How's the year looking?
Well, it's looking to be a year of transition. My word for the year is actually flow. So it's trying to flow from success of last year and trying to get things, moving even, more systematically. So
I get that. Transition to me sounds healthy, where it's like, okay, we did this, it's working. We're going to tweak things, be creative, be innovative. I really like that. But to start off, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Washington State. I'm in the Tri-Cities area in West Richland, Washington.
Okay. Are you originally from the area? Are you newer to it?
No, I'm originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, but have lived all over the world. So.
I gotcha. Awesome. Well, for folks that, are visiting, let's say they're coming up to visit you, where are you taking them? What are you showing them? What are you doing? And where are you going to eat?
So, well, there's lots of wineries in the area where I'm at. In fact, a lot of the California wine is augmented from the wine here in this region. There's in about a 50-mile radius, there's about 100 wineries. So there's a lot of restaurants related to the wineries that are very nice. Uh, so um, it's a desert. A lot of people don't realize that there's a desert in the evergreen state of Washington, so we get forgotten a lot. But I actually came here because of the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. It's a Department of Energy laboratory, and I started working for them in 2008 until 2013, and then from there, I actually went to Doha, Qatar. For 10 years, and we kept the house and had family members live in our house while we were gone. But that's why we're here. There's a lot of things to see in the area. The Pacific Northwest is beautiful. It's a great place to hike and do lots of natural things. So,
Well, what about food? What's regional cuisine out there? Like, where are you taking people for dinner?
there's a place called Lulu's here in town, um, and there's a bunch of things on the river there, the Columbia River that are nice and everything. So. Um, this area it has a lot of your regular chain stores and everything, which are not too interesting. But there are some interesting mom and pop shops, but Lulu's is one of those.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm always curious because everybody has their own their own tastes and they like different things. And I've never been out there, so if I do, I'll have to put that on the list. So, what can you tell us about what you do?
So, well, what I do is I'll just tell you how I talk to people, and that is that as the visionary entrepreneur, you built your company because you knew your solution was going to change people's lives. But now, instead of changing the world, you're stuck in another meeting trying to get your team to understand what you see so clearly. Um, that dream seems to be slipping through your fingers, though, because everybody around you seems to be speaking a different language. What I do is I help these entrepreneurs actually pull their teams back together and help them understand the mission and get them to have buy-in on that. And that's what I do is to help them get that buy-in. And with that buy-in and working with multicultural teams, they're able to actually move forward at a much more rapid pace and have much more success.
Yeah, it's definitely better if the team can hold the vision instead of it all just being in your head and you trying to figure it out. So yeah, I really like that. What got you started? Kind of how'd you get into where you are now?
So I talked a little bit about why I'm here in my area. I worked at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. I was in a career called technology transfer, and what that is that universities, research universities, and research institutions like the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, they have an office that's called the Technology Transfer Office, TTO, and they're required to have that by law. there's the Bayh-Dole Act that actually requires them to make sure that the money that they're getting in for research and of the billions of dollars that the federal government pays for research, it needs to be something that benefits the public. And how does it benefit the public? But by becoming products and services. So I worked at the University of Illinois for 12 and a half years, then was recruited into the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory for 5 years, and then was recruited into the Cutter Foundation for 10 years. And they had 8 universities and 3 national laboratories and 2 research hospitals that I managed the intellectual property for. So what a technology transfer professional does is they get these nascent technologies from the researchers. They look at it to see if it's actually something that's solving a problem that needs to be solved rather than just something that's in their head. And if it actually is solving a problem that needs to be solved, how do you get that into a form that actually could be useful for the public? And then along with that, you need to be able to determine whether it's protectable with intellectual property, so patents, trademarks, trade secrets, copyrights, whatever it may be. We have to go through that. And then if you're going to be paying for the patents, which are very expensive, you need to make sure that you have a market for it. And so you have to kind of find market players. And then you have to find somebody to actually take that technology to the next level. Sometimes that's with existing companies, but oftentimes it means that we're creating startups. And so we get an entrepreneur who is very interested in the technology. And I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs, hundreds of startups throughout my career around the world, and basically, helping them take these technologies to the next level. So what I found was that a lot of times these entrepreneurs, their companies would get going and everything, and then there would be a situation where there would be a merger and an acquisition, and the company that would be buying them out would be a larger company, but the larger company is buying them out because they're very interested in that company, and they're interested in that company because of the product that they have, the service they have, but really they're interested in the innovative nature of the group that's in that company. And so oftentimes those that company that's buying that smaller startup out, their stock price, it skyrockets, and then over like about 3 or 4 years, it declines. And why does it decline? It's because they haven't been able to utilize that entrepreneurial activity, that energy, that innovative energy that was with that team, and a lot of that team just kind of goes away because that larger company, maybe they have the antibodies coming out, the people who don't necessarily understand these people, and they feel threatened by them, and so this entrepreneurial or innovative group is not really respected the way that it should be. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to take this entrepreneurial effort to the next level and help make that transition a little bit better. So I work with these companies that are doing $2 million to like $50 million. And they've gone from the core 3 to 4 people, and now they're between 10 to 50 people. And that's when the things get messy. And so it's trying to save value and create more energy behind what they're doing, and to give them the initiative to actually, if they do have an IPO, or they do get sold and to somebody else, that somehow that body is able to move in and make a transition a little bit better.
Okay, I got you. What's your favorite thing about what you're doing now?
Well, so I deal with technologies in all different fields, and I deal with people from all different places in the world, and so that variety is what really drives me. It's something about this creative energy that comes from these people, the creativity that comes from having people, from different walks of life actually in a unit, working together. And it's that my belief is that everybody is a piece of the puzzle of life, and everybody has a purpose for being here on Earth. And the problem is that most people don't find their purpose. And so my main goal is actually to help people find their purpose, help leaders get that purpose out of those people, to make sure that they're allowing them a space, in their own puzzle, in their company's puzzle, but they're actually providing them margin so they can grow into that. Because if you think about HR as it is right now, the HR people there, they have a checklist, what is, somebody's, degree in university, what is their certifications that they have, what jobs did they do, how long were they in those jobs? Oh, they were in that one too long, they were in that one too short. Why is that? Well, those things are like really, you know of course you need to know those things, but it's not really getting to know what the person is, and how the person what the person is like, and not even allowing the person to be who they were meant to be. And so if somehow we as leaders can make ourselves better so that we can pull that type of thing out of the people, then we're going to be getting a more tight-knit group that's going to be interested in actually giving their all for the company, and then the company gives back to them by allowing them to they're being empowered and everything. So it's that empowerment that allows the whole organization to grow and to develop.
Awesome. I always like asking entrepreneurs or people that deal with a lot of entrepreneurs questions about like what are some mistakes that maybe you made early on that you could advise others to avoid, or that you've seen others make. But a little bit more to kind of your in what you're doing, and I think would be really interesting is when you're dealing with a diverse, a group, right? The people from all sorts of different places coming together. What are some unique stumbling blocks that maybe a lot of people make when they're starting that?
Well, I think we put people into these cultural categories, oh, he's from India, so he acts this way, or that person's from Japan or China or whatever, or from America, even. And we put people in a box, but without actually really understanding them. Now, it is important to understand where people are coming from, because their education and the way that they grew up is going to affect how the leader deals with them. So, people from Eastern cultures tend to have a higher deal of respect for their authority figures, so their teachers, those people that are leaders above them, and they were taught in different ways than maybe people in the Western world were. In the Western world, it's very typical that people question their teachers in a lecture. They provide comments that may be out of sorts with what the teacher is talking about, and then the teacher brings everybody back to a point of clarity, or pulls in that information and says, hey, yeah, that's really exciting, that's interesting. But in the Eastern world, the teacher is expected to know all, so the people are I don't know that they're discouraged, but the cultures actually make it so that they don't question what their teacher is saying, because that would be rude. And so I had a client just a couple months ago come to me and say, hey, I hired these three new employees, and they're all doing the same thing. They're IT people. And one is from Japan, one is from India, and one is from Sri Lanka. And I was expecting them, because of how long they've been in their positions, to be able to hit the ground running. And, I found out that they're not doing anything. And or it doesn't look like they're doing anything. And he says, what's going on there? And I said, well, what do you mean they're not doing anything? He goes, well, they should know what to do. And so I told him, this is what we want done. But I don't know why they're not doing it. And I said, well, did you give them any leeway, or give them any guidelines in regards to what you wanted to do, or what you wanted to see from the outcome, or see in the activity? And he says, well, no, I was just expecting them that they are professionals, they'd be able to do that. And I said, well, when this is going back to that cultural aspect, if they don't want to question you, they're waiting for your go ahead. And you may think that you've given that go ahead, but they don't know exactly, if they're going to be starting the way that you want them to, or if it's going to be outside of the box. And so they're waiting for a little bit more structure. And so if you can provide that structure, but I told him, maybe what you need to do is sit down with each of them, maybe individually and then as a group, and just say, hey, this is the way I work. and this is, my expectations, and this is what I really appreciate about your qualifications and everything. This is how do we get to from this point to this point, and by his doing that, those types of activities, he was able to actually get them rolling. So things are really rolling now, but it's just that those cultural aspects are really something that can get in the way if we're thinking that everybody thinks the same way that we do. And going back to a point that you were talking about, that um, you know, leaders. Well, I'll just bring this in. Leaders often think, well, I know this job, I can do this job, and we kind of tend to take things on our own, and we don't really know how to delegate things. And so this is also a delegation issue. How do you make sure that delegation is going to the people in a way that they can understand it?
Mhm. Yeah, I liked what you're saying about like thinking outside the box and stuff. Yeah, that's something that we all talk about and we all think about, but the box is made in America. You got to define what that box is for somebody that doesn't know. So
Yeah.
that's really important. I really like that. So how about like pain points or average clients? What are some things that you might, recognize that if somebody's dealing with these issues or just your average client that they need to talk to you because they're going through X, Y, or Z?
So, so my clients,
Yeah,
why they
just
need to
on
talk to me.
average. Yeah.
So, if they feel that somehow, um, so again, they had that initial 3 to 4 people, and the 3 to 4 people who started the company, they really know that mission. But once they start getting new people in there, things really get out of whack. It's all of a sudden, process that used to be smooth and everything. They're not working the way that they should be. So, why is that? Well, people don't. They don't understand the mission in the same way that the visionary does. And so you need to get them on track for that. I have a program called Synchronize Yourself Naturally Within Your Community, SYNC. And the synchronized part is something that is really important to make sure that we're getting people to do several things. One is you need to be speaking the same language. So companies often have what I call the curse of Babel. And what the curse of Babel is that each department has their own language. Okay, so the larger each department becomes, the more siloized it becomes. And so the silos bring in this jargon for that specific purpose. So maybe the IT people or finance or communications, marketing, even the factory floor. It doesn't really matter, but they start speaking their own language, and the other departments don't really understand them. So you may have marketing thinking that what the technical side is saying about putting together this software is one way when it's actually another. And so you really need to get people to sit down together. And I have a language alignment, a matrix that we work through. And that basically helps people have, common language on certain things. And, I help these leaders work with their teams and trying to actually get this communication system set up so that they can start to understand each other. And once you've done that, then things can go forward. But we have templates and everything that people work from. Um, and that language alignment matrix actually gets people, recognizing that certain words mean certain things, and they're always using those terms. And the more alike the language can be, the better. The next thing is talking about the orbs of influence. And what the orbs are is that everybody has an orb. So if you are somebody who's reporting to a boss, okay, then you have an orb that your orbs need to be conjoined somehow. You don't want them completely separate, otherwise you're not on the same mission. But if you're conjoined, the closer you are and aligned, the better you are. Now, the reason why I say orbs instead of like a sphere of influence is because a sphere, seems to be, something that's more concrete or something that's more perfect. But an orb is really more organic and more natural. And you have your orbs of your core team, and then you have the orbs if it's a small group. And then if you have your orbs that are just outside of the organization, which may be your suppliers, vendors, your VA, all those people who actually do things for you to get your work done. and they need to be really aligned with you also. And then you have outside of that is your competitors who could potentially become collaborators. And that's the goal, is to see how you can actually mutually prosper. That's the name of my company, but how you can actually mutually prosper by utilizing each person's uh, benefits, the positive things about them. And then from there, you go to the clients. Also, in that third ring is where your investors are. And so, if you're learning how to work with those groups, and especially the first two, you need to make sure that you're aligned. And so, I would say that you even when you're a small company and you're depending on these outside vendors and suppliers and the VA and such, you need to make sure that they're actually part of your board. So you have these monthly board meetings, if you will, to make sure that you're all aligned. So you've got your language, you're speaking the same language, you know how you fit together as puzzle pieces in this puzzle with these orbs, and what each person is supposed to be doing. And as people understand how their piece of the puzzle works with other pieces of the puzzle, and you could actually make these puzzle pieces be gears instead, and have these gears actually how they work together, then people understand that, well, what I do really means something to this part at the end of the process. And so if everybody sees where they fit in, then all the pieces fit together better, and things tend to work better. So that's the synchronized part, and I use consensus building from the Japanese. I had gone to Japan early on as a missionary for my church, right between during university, and so I was there for 2 years. And when I went back to university, I changed my major to Japanese. I wanted to go back to Japan as a consultant, and so I had Japanese and business as my studies. And what I learned from Japan was that they're really good at consensus building. Looking at the society there, even though Tokyo has 35 million people, and they're just like on top of each other, you would never know that they were um, they were so many people together, because everybody just kind of molds together. They this consensus framework that they work within. They respect other people's lives, their positions and everything, because they know that it affects their own. And so we have what's called the Ningi Seido system, and that is where you have managers within an organization. So you have the CEOs here, and then you have your middle managers here, and then you have your people down here that are working the factory floor or whatever. So somebody from here, they have a suggestion in regards to how they would change a process or something, make something better. So this is the Kaizen philosophy, a continual improvement. And so they would tell their manager, and then their manager would talk to other managers who their activities actually work with, and then they would determine whether or not that that solution makes sense, and they would get it to make sense. And then this dingy Sato process basically brings up a dingy show, which is a paper. And once that paper has gone through all these different people, then it goes up to the shacho, which is the CEO. The shacho puts their stamp on it, and then the approval process is made. So this is a little bit different than American decision making, which is top down. But I think that top down doesn't work right now. I think that you need to have that body in underneath actually being able to um, uh, easily talk through these scenarios to really make sure that the problem that people think needs to be solved is actually being solved in a good way. So this consensus building, solution making is really important. So language, the alignment of the orbs or the puzzle pieces, and then how you build this consensus. Um, that's the synchronized part. I can go through the yourself and naturalize and communitize if you want me to, but that's a really important part for the leaders.
No, no, that's really interesting. When you're looking at like power partners and people that you synergize well with as far as other industries or other professionals, what does that look like?
Um, so basically, it it one of the things that's interesting here is on the naturalize part. One of the main components of naturalize is really how do you utilize intuition? A person's intuition, and and I think everybody has some intuition in them, but most people don't know how to use it. And if you use intuition to understand that, hey, there's a problem, you can sense this problem's there, or you can sense that there's a solution that needs to be made, um, then you can take these glimpses of lightning bolts of ideas that come in, and then do research on them to see if that's something that actually will solve your problem. But this is a way of using what you have as a person, and then figuring out how it works, as you as a leader with the group that you have and all the different individuals that you have, and you're going to get sparks of ideas in regards to how you could utilize somebody a little bit more creatively. This is providing that margin around that puzzle piece, and then they are enabled to do their job. If they're empowered to do it, they're actually going to bring more of their own creative self into that, and then help to solve those problems. So along with the consensus building, and then having these intuitive sparks, you know pulling these things together, it helps you get your team feeling like they're really part of the solution, and able to solve the problems that you have for even your clients.
Okay. Well, I guess, I mean, are there certain industries or types of or other types of entrepreneurs that maybe you handle your piece of the pie, and they handle theirs, and it synergizes well with your offering as a whole? So, a good example would be like bookkeepers working with CPAs. They
Hmm.
refer back and forth. They both handle their area of expertise. What does that look like for you as far as your relationships with other entrepreneurs?
So, that's a very good question. Thank you for that. And so I would say that I'm dealing with um, the systems related to culture and how to get people unified and to get the team moving on the mission in the right way. And how do you build that mission with the team concept? For my skills really go well with, it could be the bookkeeper types, it could be, the accountants, it could be the people who are doing, um, are dealing with somebody that's on, like, dealing with a factory, okay, but they're dealing with the technical side of the factory, okay, they're dealing with the tools that the factory needs. I'm working on the cultural side of what the factory people need to be doing to make those tools actually be beneficial. And so there's some synergy that can take place there. In regards to, uh, you know, working with companies um, that are maybe larger than the groups that I've been talking about. I'm helping HR and the CEO suite to get their teams together, on a company basis. So that could be working with the HR in a different way than they're used to working, and helping them out that way.
Okay, I gotcha. And then, before we hopped on, we were talking, and you said that you were contributing to a book. What is there about that?
Yeah, so the book is called I Quit: How to Lose Your Job and Find a Dream Career. And there's 19 people, thought leaders from around the world that are contributing to this book. My topic is the intuitive maverick, navigating career transitions with the sync method. And basically, this is talking about um, my own career and how it's been shaped. But our careers they're not linear. They don't just go from one thing to the next in always a clear, uh, concrete manner, in the way that we think it's going to go. Um, our careers often take tangents, and there's paradigm shifts, and there's disappointments in the careers, and so I talk through how I felt that I had intuition about joining Guess Jeans after university, and this was to helping them go into Japan, and I had several different interviews with them, and I thought it was going to come through, and I just felt it was going to come through, but it didn't come through, and I was really devastated. But now I look back in my career, and I realize that if I had gone down that route, I would not be as well rounded as I am right now. And that I wouldn't be in the position that I am right now to have experienced all these different types of things, all these different types of technologies, all these different types of companies, all these different places that I've worked. I would have been stuck in one mode, and it was actually a blessing to have that happen. So I talk about how using intuition helps us in moving past ourselves, and helping us get to where we need to be. And it's like um, Steve Jobs said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. And that's really what I would tell people in this book, is that in this chapter, is that that's really what's important. Is it's not so much what you're doing day to day. It's really the journey and what you become because of all that activity. Now, one more thing about this book is that all the proceeds for the book are actually going to um, the hurricane victims of Milton and Helene. So this is an effort to help them out. But we've got some top people out there actually pushing the book for us. Jack Canfield and Patty Aubrey and others of the like, that are really interested in making sure that people see this book, but also help out those hurricane victims.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's I really like that. Any help, I imagine goes a long way. So, really innovative, really cool way of doing that. So, that's really awesome. How can businesses leverage cultural diversity to boost innovation and team performance?
A good question. So what I've seen in my time, working in different places, I worked in four, I lived in four different countries. So the US, Japan, Taiwan, and Qatar. But I worked in 25 countries. And then I worked with people from 60 different nationalities when I was at the Qatar Foundation. And so what I found was that these people from different backgrounds, they may not speak the same way that somebody from the Western world speaks, and they may not be really, out there outgoing and everything. They may be a little bit more shy and such, but I would say that it's really important to try and get them out of their shell, and they need some help with that. And once you get people out of their shell and they start feeling comfortable, they're going to start sharing more of themselves, and their little spark of energy coming from their culture, from their training, from their experiences, is going to be able to add a lot of excitement to your activities if you allow it to be that way. And so that's going to bring creativity in a way that doesn't come if you don't foster this type of community building, and making sure that everybody feels like they're doing has value, what they say has value, and that they have just as much ability to say something as somebody else. And so that ability to bring out the best in each of these people, and when they see how their piece of the puzzle fits in the whole, they're going to go to the nth degree to make sure that they get their stuff done, so that things can go as far as it can go. And that's where things just get catapulted into the next stratosphere, because this group is so united and everything. It's like those first founders and everything. What they do, really takes things to a certain point. But in order to have that same energy that they had with the four that were really tied together, you need to get the 10 or the 20 or the 50 as tight as possible, so that can actually take things to the next levels that it needs to go.
Okay. What lessons can leaders learn from managing people from across multiple nations?
Well, just recognizing the differences, being cognizant that um, the upbringing, the education, the cultural differences are there, but you want to capitalize on those, and then minimize the cultural friction that can come. And I think that cultural friction comes when leaders um, dictate things instead of actually pull them out like this consensus building way. I was in a company, and what was really surprising was one day we had this big event, and they rolled out this new mission and a vision and these new goals, and what was strange was that that nobody had knew what was happening. And so when they said that, well, we have, authenticity and trust, and we're in this together and everything. Well, just the fact that they didn't pull everybody together to put this thing together, it was really a communications piece. Um, and they thought it was beautiful, but because they didn't have the buy-in, it really fell flat. And a lot of people just kind of got depressed, because they weren't being listened to. And so it's really important that as a company grows, and as it grows, the mission needs to change, and it needs to absorb these other parts that are coming in. And it's not that the whole mission needs to have everybody's voice involved, because that would take forever. But at least, when you come to a point where things look like they're pretty solid, bring people in, do your get their views on what's actually, happening with this, why we're doing it, and then, you know, incorporate some of their comments and everything, and then you're going to have much better buy-in, and that buy-in is going to take you so much further than if you just kind of ram it down their throats.
Okay. Why is understanding cultural dynamics essential for modern business success?
Well, I think there's two sides to this coin. So one is, if we're looking at building products and services that go out to the world, and on a global basis, then we need to be understanding how those different, groups will accept what we have, and how it competes with other things that may be in those markets. But we're not just a global world in regards to products and services. We're actually a global in regards to, again, people coming from all over the place with different aspects. So we have, the topic of immigration in the United States. It's actually really important that people recognize that immigration is crucial. um, we have uh, the baby boomers, when they really start retiring, that's going to take out 6 million people from the working population. Or actually, it's going to take out millions of people from the working population. Where we need to have 6 million people, we're going to end up with 4 million people. And so what do you do to deal with that type of loss? Well, you need to bring in new people, and that's going to come from other places. And there's other people who have different expertise that are coming from other places, and we need to be cognizant of that, but also accepting of that. And not just that we want them in here, but we want them to feel like they're family, and that they feel like they're able to provide what they do. A lot of times, um, companies, they'll hire people, and those people will think that they're going to be able to hit the ground running, and ultimately they're put in this little box, and the box is less than what they could actually do. And that's why that margin I was talking about is really important. um, if they're stuck in this box, and it's less than what the total they can do, they're going to be disgruntled, and they're going to be, not really interested in long-term commitment to the company, especially if they're not being um, valued. And so that global side is really important, to understand that these cultural aspects that we have in regards to people coming from different places, and how we can actually work with them better, is really beneficial for lots of reasons. But really, just to get that company to gel, it's important.
Okay, I gotcha. Is there anything that I missed or failed to ask that you wanted to add?
The yourself part of the sync system is really, how does somebody become an effective leader? And I am a Jack Canfield Success Principles methodology trainer, and so a lot of what's in the yourself part is really talking about, how you become this good individual. How do you become responsible and work as a leader that way? But I also have other components that come from different places around the world, one aspect of people that I've really felt appreciative of, and really in awe of in regards to how their work ethic is, was the Filipinos that I've worked with, my colleagues from the Philippines. And I was thinking, why do they work so well? Why are they always so happy and energetic? And why do they go to the nth degree to get their jobs done? And I found that um, in the tourism area of the Philippines, they have what's called the 7 M's of service. And these 7 M's are things like having empathy and caring and excellent, leading up to excellence. And so all of these things are how do you become a servant leader? And that's what I'm teaching in this yourself part, this personalized part of the sync system is how do you become a servant leader to actually get people to want to follow you and work with you. And then the communitize is basically how do you I worked with different groups that have tribes. So like I was in the Arab region, and tribes are a real thing, and tribes have good things and they have bad things. You want to get the silo aspect out of it, but you want to build the tribes to have this cohesiveness, this willingness to work together. But also there's healing properties that come from like the Polynesian cultures and things like that that help to build that community.
Okay, awesome. How can people get a hold of you if they have more questions or they kind of want to dive in a little bit deeper? What's the best way that they find you or, reach out to you?
So on LinkedIn, that's where a lot of information about me is on, and a lot of my philosophy I post every day, and that's John Taylor McEntire on LinkedIn, and it's McEntire. And then the company is Mutual Prosperity, and it's mutualprosperity.com. So
Perfect.
those two places would be the best place to go.
Perfect. And I'll put all that in the description, and I'm going to copy and paste it from what you sent me. So if it's misspelled, it's your fault, not mine.
Okay.
If anybody would like to get a hold of John, absolutely reach out to him. There's so much deeper that we can go into this, and it's such an interesting topic that he can go into, whether it's the cultural part of it and just kind of having that experience dealing with other cultures in the workplace environment, which a lot of us haven't thought about. There is some things there, so absolutely do that. You're gonna walk away knowing more than you do now. Other than that, if you're a little shy and you prefer an introduction, just ask me. I'm more than happy to make that three-way introduction for you. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can find me at ikag.me, where you can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with the growing community. If you'd like to be interviewed, you can also find the application to be on the show there as well. But thank you so much for coming on, John. I really appreciate you taking the time to pour into us. I hope we all go out there, have an awesome day, and let's grow our circle.
Thank you so much, Anthony.